anyway.
Yeah.
We are? Audio, we're on now. So I can say hello.
You can say hello. I can say hello.
Hi, folks. We are scrambling for a minute. Big crew tonight.
Just finished the episode.
Just finished filming tonight's episode. I think is this our last one for the year? Or we're going to try to squeeze in one more at the end of the...
No, this will probably be the last one.
Do I have to turn mine on and off?
It's on, I think. You're not close enough.
Hey, where's this going?
Okay.
Over there by the,
Oh, right in there. In that corner.
right in this nook?
Yeah. Stand those up on edge, please. Okay, I'm ready.
Let's go.
It's nice.
I'm not seeing the
Jake,
Save me some.
Waiting on you.
time. Frank, we ready?
Just a second. Are we on? Can you see
Yeah.
anything? Or can you? Oh, no. Okay. Just make sure your volume's off.
so what's Nick's going to do?
Yeah,
handle-
he's gonna be on the chat.
Does Nick have a mic?
No.
Nick needs a mic.
Nick's going to do... Is that a delay?
Yeah.
There's a
Thank you.
delay on this?
He can come over here.
Well, they needed the table saw. That's all. Unless you.
Okay.
Although of course
No,
not.
but I mean when he has something to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's gonna chat and make sure the stream stays live. Can you see anything? Are we good?
We're good.
Bring it over. You have something?
Anybody on there yet?
Yeah,
So-
we're
How many?
I don't know.
Millions and millions?
I can't see anything.
we got Rochester,
Oh, we got
New York,
we got 50 at least.
Albany.
Hello,
Wisconsin.
Rochester. Hello,
There we go.
Albany. Both in
George
New York.
Barber's on.
George. Evening, George.
Prentice
Hello to
Hill.
the wife.
Joyce Wallace. Norman Olson.
Oh,
From
oh,
Montreal.
here. Okay, you're good? We live?
Yep.
Jake,
Okay.
I'm over here. Officially, 1, 2, 3, go.
Yep.
Hi, folks. Welcome. This is number 15. This is December 7th. December 7th, 1941. Terrible thing happened that brought the United States into World War II. And we salute all veterans, both those still alive and those who have passed on. You know what our Purple Heart Project is all about, so I'm going to start by telling you that real quickly so that you understand why we do this. And we are going to build something tonight. We've got a lot of work to do on it. So starting in 2020, which is less than a month away, we are going to increase our Purple Heart Project to include six-day classes. First one is in May, and then one a month right through to the end of October, which are the good, reliable travel months in Canada. Each class has 12 students, 6 of which are combat wounded veterans that we select from a qualification process. They can come anywhere, Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, well, didn't mean to say that, but yes, England. To date, we've had 88, 83 of which were American, 1 Aussie, and 4 Canadians. And we bring them in, we cover their airfare, we cover their hotel, we cover their meals, and do we feed them well? And we send them each home with, in US dollars, it's going to be about $3,000 worth of hand tools so they can go home and set up a shop. This has proven to be extremely therapeutic for guys suffering from PTSD, guys, gals, or the effects of traumatic brain injury, like Super Dave. And that's it. That's what we do. It's expensive. If we figure it's a little better than $3,000 US per vet, so do the math on that, 36 each year times 3. So we raise money through the sale of our dovetail saw, all our saws. Frick does barbecues in the summer, and generous people donate. We don't have any corporate sponsor, although I say that Woodcraft actually gives us money, and several of the Woodcraft stores actually are stepping up to the plate and covering the cost of a vet each. And anyway, so we also use these workshops to raise money. So here's how it works. If you donate $25 to the Purple Heart Project, you do that by going onto our webpage. Frick's going to put a link on there and donate. You can donate any amount you want, but every $25 or $25 increment gets your name in the hat once. For tonight, it is going to be a fiddleback, actually I call that figured maple, and you can have it made into a dovetail saw, a crosscut saw, a bench crosscut, or a medium tenon. This is some beautiful wood that Sean Mahaffey's been doing up for us. It's resin impregnated. I'll tell you real quick, they dry it to get down to 0 moisture content, put it in a chamber with a polymer resin. As they extract the air and create a vacuum, the air comes out of the wood, has to be replaced with something so the resin gets in there. When it solidifies, it makes it very dense. It increases the weight 30-40%. Makes it so when you polish it up, it's just like satin, beautiful, and it makes it nice and strong. So it's a beautiful saw. We'll make a beautiful saw. So that's how you do. And all of that money, we don't take any kind of a fee out of this. All that money goes to the Purple Heart Project to supporting a soldier.
We lose about 3%.
Now we lose the 3% that the credit card company takes. Oh, yes. So I've got a few more little things to tidy up before. First of all, I got to say hello to Angie. So Angie, if you don't know, this is Angie. Angie's Ken's cousin. That's Ken.
If I pan,
That's
I'll
Ken.
get all of the team in the shot.
Okay, well, we'll introduce them all. Ken's over there. Ken worked with me. If you buy a saw, it's at least half of it's built by Ken. 95%. Oh, Ken, you're getting a lot more credit. So this is Angie. And Angie and Lynn, her sister, who is her caregiver, she packages all of our T-shirts. So when you get a T-shirt and it's nicely packaged and there's a little gold seal on there with an A, that's Angie. And this is our first shirt, which is Wood is Good. Has our logo on the front. And our latest one, make that ding or ding, is my niece, Michaela, came up with the slogan, Wood Doing Good. And that's in teal, and that was Angie's color. Now, Angie's under the weather tonight, I understand. So, Angie, you got to get better because you can't be taking any time off. Ken already told me. Now, quick introduction. Start over here. This is Nick. Nick came to was in our workshop in April.
May?
And this is his girlfriend, soon to be more than his girlfriend, Erica. If you want to say anything anytime now, Nick, on bended knee, I'll give you the opportunity. 14 years it's been? Almost 13 years. Oh, you're probably waiting for another day or two. I understand. So Nick's going to be helping answering the questions tonight because Megan, who we need and miss, is away in Utah visiting her family. So we got Ken here. We got my son Rex in the back. Rex lives in Halifax. He's visiting this weekend. And you all know Frick from the Frickin' Good Barbecue. Jake's behind the camera. He just came home. And that's, okay, now a couple things over here. So this is a guitar that was made by the East Tennessee Luthiers Guild. So I met Paul down in Knoxville. And Paul's a Vietnam vet. He's also a luthier, makes guitars. So we got chatting, and he likes what we do. He said, if you wear my T-shirt and give me a shout-out, next guitar we make, I'll give it to you, and you can sell it to raise funds for the Purple Heart Project. So this, and there's a lot of information on this. You can go on my site. If you go on RobCosman.com, go to YouTube and look it up, and you'll see where we've had Manoli, my friend, come in and play it a few times. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing we're doing with the dovetail saw, and our next broadcast, we're going to do it with this. So you might be able to take something like that home. And this is our, I have to mention Ahmed. Ahmed made this jacket for me, which is awesome. That's our Purple Heart logo, and I wear this through airports, and people have actually asked me, hey, what's that all about? So great conversation. And that's the reason why we want you to get a T-shirt, because we find these vets through personal contact. It's
Okay,
a
we're
matter
going to
of...
have to turn that off.
What? Oh. No, I love that noise. That's music to my ears.
That means a donation for those
Yeah,
of
that
you.
ding that you hear is people donating. We find vets only through personal contact. That means you bring up the topic, and sooner or later you will run into somebody who has a nephew, a brother, a cousin, somebody who is at home suffering, and we'll never know what it's like, but I can tell you from little experience I have with guys that have it, it is debilitating. In fact, 22 vets a day in the United States take their own life because of this. It's a tragedy, and we can fix it. At least we can fix part of it, because the guys that come to our workshop, in fact, I want to tell you right now, go to our website, RobCosman.com, go under the section on workshops, and go, don't ask me why, but go to the October 2020 workshop, and you'll see on there where you can track it down, and you can go do read the customer reviews. And just go find the one from Kevin and read it, and you'll understand what I mean, what this does. And I'm the first one to admit, I know nothing about what we're doing. I know wood, I know how to teach it. But what I've discovered is working wood is extremely therapeutic. All right, now guys interrupt me with questions, if you have them.
Cody Brandt says, what's the difference between a crosscut and a bench crosscut?
Wait, repeat that question. I'm not sure how well the.
Oh, yeah. So Nick's way over there, so you can't hear him. So Cody says, what's the difference between a crosscut and a bench crosscut? Well, this is the crosscut.
Hang on.
What?
The term we use is joinery crosscut.
Joinery crosscut. Well, let's get it right. So this saw has about 1 5/8 depth of cut. It has 16 teeth per inch with 2 thou set per side. So it allows you to make a very precise crosscut, meaning you're cutting across the grain. The idea is to be able to join your wood right from the saw. So if you're cutting a mortise and tenon joint, instead of having to go in and use a shoulder plane to create that shoulder, if you got a good saw and a little bit of practice, you can do it right from the saw. It makes you very efficient. However, it cuts so nicely that I end up wanting to use it all the time. So I said, I got to get away from using that just to lop a piece off a piece of wood instead of having to run over to the table saw. So we started making what is called our bench crosscut. This has a blade that is 20 thousandths of an inch thick, 2 thou set per side. Kerf is 24 thousandths of an inch. In relative terms, a piece of writing paper is 4 thousandths of an inch. This one has a 25 thou steel plate with 2 thou set per side. So now you're talking about a 29 thou kerf. It also has 13 teeth per inch, so it's a little more aggressive. And because it's got more depth of cut, I think you have 1 3/4 inch. No, 2 inch depth of cut. I should have known that. It's also a little bit longer, and the brass back is a little bit wider, a little heavier. So this is something that you would use to do cuts that aren't joinery related, but cuts nice and smooth. So that's the difference. Heavier, longer,
Right.
deeper depth of cut.
Hey, we're 11 minutes in. We better get rolling.
All right. Nick, did you decide anything yet? Oh,
No
he thinks I'm
pressure.
going to leave him alone.
No pressure.
Lots of pressure, Nick. Tons of pressure. And we want to hear it first. Well, second, Erica. All right, so here's what we decided. We were trying to, what are we going to talk about? We said, well, it's Christmas. It's near Christmas. And what are you going to get that person that doesn't want another tie or whatever, box of chocolates? Cutting boards are really popular. Everybody loves cutting boards, and most people like wooden cutting boards. Now, the downside to a wood cutting board is what, Ken? I haven't even talked to you about this. What's the downside to a wood cutting board?
Wood movement.
Wood movement.
Moisture.
So it gets wet, it cracks, it warps. Sure, it may be part of the allure, but not necessarily makes it any easier to use. So I was thinking, and this is one that I designed. I'm going to come back to this topic in a second. This is one I designed a while back when I was starving, and I'm trying to figure out what kind of item can I make that I could, inexpensive to manufacture, but would be able to sell. And I never got any farther than this. In fact, this is the first prototype, which was done with pine, which wouldn't be your best choice for a cutting board. Anyway, so my idea was here is that this would be for cheese, and this is made out of bird's eye. You want to use maple because maple is very tight wood, so you certainly wouldn't want to use oak or ash. Big open pores, you get lots of food down in there and bacteria. So that one would be sized for your cheese. This one would be sized for your sweet bread, like banana bread, lemon bread, tends to be a smaller loaf. And this one would be for your loaf of bread. 3 different sizes. No finish on it. You don't want to. I don't want to finish on it. I don't want to impart any taste. And then my holder was made out of mahogany with a couple of dovetails. If it's got me in it, it has to have dovetails, and a couple of slots cut in there, and it just looks kind of cool. Unfortunately, like I said, I never did anything with it, so we are tonight. So we're going to go through and make one of these, possibly make a few modifications, walk you through the process. But Jake came up with a great idea. Now back to the problem with maple. It gets wet, it warps. So I found out about torrefied maple from my friend Mel. And if you want any of this stuff, you just need to go to Mel's website, exoticwoods.com. Rex, would you find that out for me, please? Exoticwoods.com. See if that's the... that must be it. I don't think there's a hyphen or anything in it. Anyway.
I'll find
So Mel is the king of wood. And this is called torrefied maple. So what they do is they take the wood and they put it in an oven or something, but they heat it to, I can't remember the temperature. I think it's less than 200 degrees, but anyway, it's hot. And in the presence of oxygen, it would actually burn, but because there's no oxygen, it doesn't. So it torrefies the wood. And apparently, the Vikings were the ones that discovered this as a way of preserving wood. If you can't get moisture into wood, then it's not going to rot. So Mel tells me that in order to verify that it's been properly torrefied, they'll take a piece after the process, soak it in water for 48 hours. If it takes up any moisture, then it wasn't done properly. So I thought, well,
They weigh it, right? That's how they
yeah,
determine.
I would imagine. So if you had a piece of wood that wasn't affected by moisture, it would make a fantastic cutting board. And because it's maple, it's nice and tight grain, so you don't have to worry about the pores getting food in them. What was the other nice thing about this? It's got a really interesting smell to it. I don't think it's going to impart any taste to your food. There was one other thing I wanted to tell you. Don't need to put a finish on it. What? Question? Terry's question is?
I'll read it, Dick, since you don't have a mic. Will the tight grain prevent the edible oil from penetrating the wood? Or do you even put oil on these?
No, I don't put any oil on them just because, so that's always been the problem. If it's normal wood, you need to have some kind of protection on it. But with the torrefied not absorbing any moisture, I don't think you're going to need anything like that. So we're going to try it, and I think it's going to be a success. I'm going to leave that to the last. We're going to go in and we're going to make the holder for it first. Anything else we need to talk about the cutting boards?
Just so you know, it is exotic-woods.com.
Okay, so it's EXOTIC dash
Woods.
WOODS.com.
I'll paste the link.
Exotic Woods in Burlington, Ontario, and I'm sure if you call and ask nice, Mel will cut you a piece that he can mail to you. He ships to us all the time. In fact, I spend way too much money there, but it's wood. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to make this piece, the holder, out of bird's eye, and I think the color will look nice against each other.
Are we?
What?
That's not the AAA, right?
Huh?
Is that the AAA bird's eye?
No. This is some stuff that I've had for a while. It's a little bit twisted up. So what I want to do is try to streamline this. And by that I mean we'll take one long piece that we can cut the grooves in and get it all milled up properly. And then we can cut it down and dovetail it together. So when we do this, I'm going to try to remember how I did it. These grooves have to run in between the pins. And we don't want to see them out through here either. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a stepped dovetail. So when it's actually dovetailed together, you're only going to see pins that go down to about there. We'll cut to the bottom of this. And these ones don't matter because they simply, like I said, that groove runs right in between the pins is what I meant to say. I think I said tails. So it won't be an issue. So for length, we're going to need a piece that is, let's say 12 and 6, 18. Leave a little bit for a cut. We'll cut with a piece, we'll cut a piece 18 and a half. Now, we'll just mark this real quick. No, I'm going to use a pencil. Now, I don't want to be cheap, so we'll use the good bird's eye. Okay, you got to think of it. We're going to see both sides, and this has got a big old knot here and some heartwood down there. I'm going to try to avoid that, so I'm going to come back to this end.
Sue says that you should also auction off the
This,
cutting board set when you're done.
good idea, Sue. I was kind of thinking about that. Is that Sue from Florida?
It is.
Hi, Sue. This is the bad pencil. Thank you, Jake. So we'll cut here. It should be all right. I better check it. And then we're going to go 18 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
18 and a half. We've got some good bird's eye on the other side. Now, I'm going to make that cut first. Make sure that I get in far enough before we cut the rest of it. So I'm going to be moving around a lot. Hopefully Jake will be able to keep up with me. I'm going to just go ahead and turn the air on now.
Wait, you're closed.
What? Mel also has a great section. Oh, yeah, just look at this real quick. So I got some bird's eye from Mel. Where's my stash? Mel has some triple, you know, if you're a fan of bird's eye, you're going to freak out over this. Look at that. So this is AAA bird's eye that Mel just has
That
set
actually
aside.
came from here.
Yes, from New Brunswick?
Yeah.
Really? So if you call him and ask him, he might be able to give you some. Okay, where's my piece of wood that I just had in my
Over
hand?
there.
Back over here.
Explain what you're looking for.
No, I want to make sure that didn't continue through, and it didn't.
Now, is that a mineral deposit?
That almost looks like heartwood. Well, actually, no. Mineral deposits are usually black.
Yeah.
All right, now we got to flatten this. What did we take that down to? Was that 5/8? If you want dimensions or lengths or anything, ask me. So we're going to finish this off at 5/8. I've got lots of material here. This is a little over 7/8. So this is my new, not my new to me joiner, and Jake installed this Jake installed the segmented head. These are carbide cutters, and this is the best invention since the saw stop in terms of improving woodworking equipment that has been around for a long time. I'm just trying to read the grain direction on this. It's not that bad in terms of not being flat. The other nice thing about that too is it does a really good job
And
on
not-
figured wood like that and not pulling any of those eyes out. You don't always get that kind of performance with straight knives. I'm gonna do one more pass. Table needs to be waxed. And then we'll joint an edge. Always easier to joint an edge that is somewhat cupped like this as opposed to
belly.
convex like that. Convex is rocking like this and it's very difficult. You don't have resting points, you have one. If it's cupped like this, then when you set it down on the joiner, at least it's resting on 2 points, so it's a lot more stable. Always have your flat face against the fence so that comes out square. Now,
So Jake was the first one to ask why you're wearing pants.
who was?
Jake.
Jake?
Jamal.
Because it was stinking cold in here tonight, and it was cold outside today, but I'm becoming a wimp. I've got that same cutter head in the thickness planer. But I also don't tempt fate, and I don't try to take too heavy of a cut when you're dealing with the figured wood. Still 3/4. I like to leave that face alone because it's perfectly flat coming off the
There's a line.
coming off the jointer, whereas the thickness planer always leaves a bit of snipe. So if you're wondering why I haven't flipped it, that's the reason. All right, that's a little heavier than 5/8, but I'm going to work with that. Now, what's our width? I'm going to copy this because it worked out just right. So that's 4 7/16. No waste. Now come over here, I'll show you this. Jake ordered this
Why don't you take it out?
a week or two ago. So this is a
Infinity?
Affinity?
Infinity.
Well, that's not who's making it.
Well, that's who sells it.
In Affinity, and this is a zero clearance. So this is a throat insert for, wow, that's heavy duty too. That's metal.
Aluminum.
Oh, it's aluminum, really. So this is, oh, that's too. So it's not going to flex on me. If you've been
Well,
following,
The tiny insert flexes a bit.
oh yeah, I know, but it's closely supported. Anyway, this is made out of aluminum. It fits the saw stop, and this is replaceable. So this just slides out. It's a piece
There's
of
2
MDF.
screws that hold it in.
Is there?
Right there at the top.
Well, there and there. So it
So it
allows you to have
has-
zero clearance, which means if you have support for
No.
the right up to the blade, when you cut things like plywood, you won't get tear out on the bottom side. In fact, that is a big enough deal I'm going to actually show you. So let me just grab a piece of plywood real fast. Now that blade is a rip blade. So most people would say, well, no, you don't use a rip blade cross-cutting wood. But here's a piece of plywood, and I'll cut 1/4 of an inch off the end. All right. Now look at the bottom side. Almost as clean as the top side. So that's what zero clearance will do for you. How wide is this supposed to be? Do you remember? 4 7? Nick, was it 4 7/16? So I don't have to run back over there. 4 7/16. Is that how wide this is? I'll run. I thought you remember. You're probably thinking up some creative way to throw out the big proposal, so I'll leave you alone. Okay. Now, let's go back over here and figure out what we're doing. So now I got to put that dado head. Ken, can you,
Ooh.
Hi?
Never mind. Ken can't.
Can, Greg's can.
I can't.
Ken what? I'll do it. I'm going to put the dado head in. I'm going to cut this out with the dado. And then we got to clean up the bottom. We'll do that with a router plane. And if we need to clean up the sides, shoot, I was going to do with that with the little side rabbet set.
Dale Scott wants to know what's the make of zero clearance insert.
Who, Dale? Dale wants to know who makes the zero insert.
It's sold by
It's sold by
Infinity.
Affinity or Infinity?
Infinity.
Infinity Tools? Any more than that? InfinityTools.com.
Well, I assume.
Here, let me just grab it real quick and see. There's a
That's
brand
different
on there.
brand.
It's made in the US of A. Here, zero in on that name. It's the only place I can see any markings. Does that say cauliflower?
I don't know, but we'll do a video on it.
It is infinitytools.com.
Affinity Tool.
In
What?
Infinity.
Hi? What? Oh, are they? Good. Who's doing it? Ed, thank you. Okay, let's get back to what we're doing. So now we're going to see this only and the edge. So now it's a matter of looking at this and saying, well, which part do we want to see? And we're also going to cut off a fair bit so we can get rid of that. Trying to decide
You
which.
obviously want to put that on the bottom.
Well, not so obvious, because that shows more bird's eye than that side.
Yeah, but what I mean is that this will go on the will form the pin board.
Yeah, it's right in the middle.
I'd flip it around though.
No,
right?
I know. I want this to be the inside. I want this to be the inside.
Isn't that the better bird's eye?
That's the better bird's.
That's. It all depends on how you look at it.
Yeah. Oh, you said this was the better bird's eye.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so this is going to be the inside. I
Yeah.
get you. Okay, now let's lay this out. So my spacing, and that assumes that we have a 7/8 inch wide. Okay, so that's going to have to be modified, because that's 7/8, and I don't know that that is perfectly flat. Ken, can you kind of keep me on track time-wise, like every 20 minutes or so, just give me a little nod?
I can do that.
He doesn't want to go over 4 hours tonight, Ken.
Yes, this is
No.
this workshop is dedicated to Luthier, so we're going to go extra long because he just loves that.
We're 32 minutes in already.
32 in. I need a cattle prod to keep you going.
Okay, I'm going to. I actually like that thickness.
It's a good heft.
I like that. That feels really good. It's got some. It's substantial. I hate using common dimensions like 3/4 because it's so common.
Can you get 13/16 out of it?
I'm gonna risk going down to 13/16, which means now I have to do some math, and that's always a bad thing.
Wait.
Wait, what?
Keep.
You know, the worst thing about doing this is this is live. I can't pause so I can figure things out. I have to actually be thought of as a fool. So what I should just do is find the center of each of these and then go from each. Why do they always put it on the wrong side? So the center of this one, this is not helping me. So we'll go 3/8 of an inch, actually 7/16. Oh my goodness. We go 7/16 from either side. And then 13/16. And then 7/16, which gives you enough room to get your hands in there to grab a hold of it. And that leaves us with a full inch in the middle. That didn't work because I didn't allow for it. So we're taking a 1/16 off of each one. So if we go half, okay, start new spot. Somebody comes up with something ingenious, let me know. 13/16 and half. And 16ths. How are we doing on donations? Anybody? Nobody's told me.
Should I read? Should I read some? There's
have a
quite a few.
bunch.
Yeah.
Oh, I lucked
Okay.
out. What's up?
There's a whole bunch. Do you want me to read all the names?
Well,
or-
I'd like to hear some. I just keep me excited.
Ken keeps.
Are we going to
typing.
take care of at least one soldier tonight?
You want me to read them off?
It's Christmas. Don't forget.
We have about 40. You want me to? We want me to say the name?
40. 40 $25 donations.
Well, some of them are substantially more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to square this up.
Nick, can you grab that yellow remote right there and shut the dust collector off?
I got it right here. I got it right here. All right. Read them, Frick.
All of them,
A bunch.
or just the big ones?
No,
Well,
give 'em-
Well,
start at the top.
All right. So we got
give me a
David,
random sampling.
David Ducharme, Stephen Bergman, Michael
Dave
Bailey.
Ducharme.
David is as constant and as
Reliable.
regular as somebody eating mucilix.
Stephen Bergman, Michael Bailey, Paul Morrison.
Paul
That's-
from Ottawa.
Yep.
Sorry, Paul.
That's our Paul.
Of course.
He's our man.
Ahmed,
Ahmed. Yeah,
With the-
absolutely.
250 donation. Joseph Weschler, Paul Krukowski, Brian Proffer, Jake Tarola, Dean Rampy,
That boy, Jake.
Sue B,
Dean.
Sue.
Sue Brownlow, Rodney Pelche, Peter Kendrick, Abraham Pinsky, Philip Robertson, David Van Der Riet,
Can you unknot that?
Matt Robertson, Peter Pouncey, Brian McQueen, David Lynn, Matt Murrell, Prentice Hill, Jason Brown, Greg Harris, Kevin Burris, Howard Bingham, Brian
That's good.
McQueen, Bob
Howard?
Cunningham.
That's good.
Yep. Bob Cunningham, Norman Olson, Jennifer Reed, David Talbot, Robert Mikesh, Norman Covington, Christopher D'Amico, Richard Hedges, Chris Allred, Rex Bostrom, Chris Morgan, Jake Kelly, Kevin Burris, John Galvin, Susan Patton.
Who?
and-
Kevin? Did I hear Kevin Burris?
Yes, you
Yeah.
did.
Thank you, Kevin. Call me. Let me know how you're doing.
John Galvin, Susan Patton, and Matthew.
Kevin was one of our combat wounded vets. 7 tours. 3 in Afghanistan, 3 in Iraq, 1 in Kosovo. Kevin was an IED, explosive ordnance disposal. Survived multiple IED blasts.
Yeah. These are all.
And is an awesome dude. Kevin's coming. Kevin, I assume this is your invitation. So we got a wood show to do in Toronto in late February. So I expect you'll be there.
Early.
And Charlie Ray also with the $250.
Charlie?
donation.
Charlie's awesome. Charlie is a Vietnam vet.
Do you want to grab your? Okay.
Okay, let me get my head around here. So,
Just a sec,
oh yeah,
just
I
a
got to
sec.
put the cartridge in. So
And-
if you haven't got a saw stop, then
and
you need to
grab-
get one.
grab your throat plate. No.
What? Oh yeah. And I'll just give you a little bit of a commercial while we're doing this, and they don't pay me to say this. I say this because you find something great, first thing you want to do is tell your friends about it. So, first, I'm thoroughly impressed with this. This is awesome. I gotta look
Which
into that more.
is one of the 2 downsides to a saw stop, right?
What's the other one?
Lousy miter gauge.
Oh yeah, yeah, pathetic miter gauge, and I've never liked the throat plate. It would flex. It would flex if you were doing something up on the end. This is the dado one, but the other one would flex on you. So I just took out the cartridge. This is the part that prevents you from cutting yourself. And when you're running a dado, which is an 8-inch diameter, you have to put in this different cartridge. And these are about $80 to $100 each. I know that because we've tripped, I think, 5 or 6 of them in here.
More than that.
One actually saved the guy's finger. And my saw stop is the original. So your cartridges are gonna be blue. Mine are clear. The blue ones came out several years ago. That was the very beginning, early stuff. Okay, so I'm putting in, if you don't know what this is a stacked dado. There's a wobbling type that I hate. This is the best. Each one of these represents 1/8 of an inch. So we'll put that one in. Now you, in case you don't know, because I've never told you, and if I just assume you know, then somebody's going to not know. So there's an open slot opposite of each other on each blade, okay? And that's where your chippers need to go.
Well, should you explain?
And you have 2 cutters,
Yeah.
so you'll notice that your cutters, all the teeth are pointed to one side, and on this one they're pointed the opposite way. So this is the left side, my left, and this is my right. You got to get that straight. So you put the first one in, and then the cutters are 1/8 of an inch, except this one is a 1/16. So what I'll do is take this one, and I need to make sure, because the carbide tooth sticks out beyond the plate, you've got to make sure that it's sitting in there and it's not sitting up like that, which wouldn't allow it to snug down tight. So you got to move it over until the tooth gets into that open area, and it automatically happens on the other side. You don't have to space these any particular way, meaning after you've got the first one in place, it doesn't matter where the second one goes, except for the fact that you don't want it sitting on top of it. So you wouldn't put the subsequent ones like that, because the 2 teeth would hit each other, so you have to have them offset some amount. And I'll put the small one in there. That represents a 1/16 of an inch. And then the last one is your 1/8. Now, you can also, because each tooth sticks out from the plate, you can add spacers. I've got some brass ones, and I've got written on there, that's a 20 thou, that's a 31 thou, that's a 16 thou. I've lost the other ones. And you can put that spacer in between, and what it'll do, it'll just give you a little more width. So when you're dealing with plywood and you're trying to cut a dado with plywood, you never find plywood to be exactly 3/4. So you've got to mess around with that. I've actually made others out of paper, or cardboard, not cardboard, but cardstock. So when the final one goes on, again, it has to line up. It has to line up with that carbide tooth sitting in the middle. Now, I'm just going to tell you real quick, if you put one of these spacers on, the problem is that the spacer wants to fall down into the in between the threads on your shaft. So what I do after I put it on is I spin it. I spin the whole thing in the direction that you would turn the nut, and what that does is it'll pull everything in tight. If you don't, you end up having those things, they just don't sit properly, and you don't want that to happen. Now, I don't have a whole lot of thread right there, so I'm going to take that off. And I'm just going to use the nut. That's my outside washer, and Dale Nish taught me that. Stick the nut on your finger like that, so when you reach down in, you don't drop it. Because to drop it down in there takes me a half an hour to take the thing apart to try to find it, especially if the dust collector's going. And then snug that up. Now, you want to have your cartridge about the thickness of a nickel away
It's gotta come up
from the cutter. That needs to be a little bit closer. So there's an Allen wrench and a set screw, or a screw right there, and you turn it clockwise and it moves it closer. Can you see, Jake? I can't see down there very well. That's good. I think that's good right there.
Yeah.
Put that out of the way. Close your door. You want to close that door because it makes the dust collection far more efficient, because it closes the area immediately around the blade.
Got a question?
Yeah.
Thomas wants to know, are there any saws which come with a decent miter gauge? It seems like most of the time it's accepted that you'll have to buy a decent one as an aftermarket part.
No, that used to be true, but Unisaw, the older Deltas, always had a great miter gauge. In fact, I've got a General in there off a General table, so they almost always fit. They're always 3/4 of an inch. But no, that may be what the case is now, but it wasn't always like that. Okay, what's our depth on this? Now, when you cut with a dado head,
Can I interject?
Pardon?
I don't think the grooves on that one were deep enough.
You don't?
No.
Why?
It didn't really hold the board very well.
I beg to disagree.
What?
I beg to differ, I should say. So these aren't quite a quarter. I'll make them a quarter, but when this cutter cuts, the little ears, and I refer to that as the points on the outside cutters, are going to go deeper. So they're actually designed to go in and score on either side, and then the chippers in the middle remove the material, will leave you with a flat bottom. But you don't have a true flat bottom. You're going to end up with these little rabbit ears, these little cuts, and you have to allow for that if you're going to see it. So we're going to see the end, so we've got to be able to get rid of that. That just means that I don't want to have it, I can't go down a full quarter on the inside of the dado. I just need a scrap in order to test this.
You're gonna put the ears in.
The ears are going to go a quarter, right. Is Pete Ambrose on tonight?
I haven't seen him, no.
Speak up, Pete, if you're around. Okay. That's... right here. So you see what I mean with the outside rabbit ears? If I could see well enough. So that's cutting a little better than 3/16. So by the time we get rid of those, that's what we want. Now why I didn't take those right out to the end is beyond me.
Pete is here. Do you hear me?
I'm just going to carry these lines.
Should you carry them out and then down the face a bit?
Yeah, up here
Not down the face, sorry, down
in the end.
Pete is here, by the way.
Hey, Pete. Merry Christmas, brother. Pete Ambrose is a combat wounded Vietnam vet that was in class number 12.
Well,
And
You kn-
Pete was awesome. I wish we could have kept him around even longer. And so does his wife.
you know what we should mention
What?
is that June's class will contain the 100th vet.
June's class. By the way, if you're thinking about coming to the class, I really need to do a plea to the, I got to get my headgear, to the civilian side of it. The civilian side of those classes is what makes it a success. And we always need the right people, and we always get the right people. And especially if you have a soft spot for the veterans that have done so much for us, we need you. May class is full for the on the civilian side. We have 2 spots left in June, and I don't know about the other classes.
I think all the other classes have at least one spot sold.
Our selection process for the vets will take place,
The
I
end of this
think,
month.
on the 26th of December.
Oh, that's what else you should mention. The cutoff for the first 3 classes, May, June, and July, is the 15th of December for PhD.
Okay, so this is
applicants.
the side I'm working on, right? I got to keep my head on this. Remind us to talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wait,
so
no.
what?
Wait a second.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Now the downside to that, and the reason why it's so hard to get a good flat bottom, is because you're cutting at the top of the circle, so it's always pushing up. I'll run it a couple of times. Now I don't have to change anything, I just switch that over. And there's a lot of force here. If you think about how much force you encounter when you're ripping a board with a blade, multiply that by the number of cutters you have in there. And this is one of those tools that causes a lot of accidents. Yeah, I'm just trying to center that on those lines. That's it. All right, now we can turn the noise off and do some handwork.
Can I read some donations real quick?
What's that?
Read some donations real quick.
Yeah.
All right, so we got Glenn Carson, Aaron Fenn, Harold Morse, Ed Black, Thomas Dixon, Richard Kovskinski, Terry Kochwar, Troy Rader, some guy named Nick Brown
Nick Brown from New Brunswick.
Nick Brown?
made a generous donation. Timothy Frednick.
He did?
Yep. Sue made another donation. Brad Smith, George Barber, Randy Wood. Let me just refresh here, make sure I'm not missing anybody.
Thank you, folks.
Dave wants to know if you're okay or wearing pants.
Dave wants to know.
Super Dave finally showed up. He had to save some orphans, he said.
He had to say what?
Save some orphans from grizzly bears.
Yeah, right. No, I'm not, Dave. But I'm going to keep them on for the duration of the show. Super Dave's coming here Tuesday?
Yeah.
When are we leaving? Monday?
No, he doesn't get here till the afternoon on Tuesday.
No, we can leave Tuesday morning. Soup's coming up. We're going to spend, he and I and Jake and Ken are going to spend some time making some wood hinge boxes. We should do a video. We're going to do a video on that, aren't we? All right. So I'm using my Lee Nielsen router plane because I want to get those nice and smooth. But you know what? This is bird's eye, and this is going to be tough to get a nice, smooth cut on the bottom. I'm going to try this. I may end up having to go in with my shoulder plane and do that. In fact,
Are you saying that because there's no throat?
I'm saying that because there's nothing to control the cut.
Tear it.
There's nothing to control the.
Tear it.
Yeah, let me explain. When you're, again, I assume you don't all know everything there is about woodworking, and I don't either, but I know a little bit. When you're making a cut with a cutter like that, there is nothing to support the wood fiber directly ahead of the blade. So if you're if you're cutting in the direction of the wood fiber, not a problem, meaning the wood fibers lay like this, you come along as you cut, and each one's supported by the next, not an issue. But as in the case with bird's eye, if you all of a sudden you get in a situation where the grain's now reversed and you're coming against it, the cutter is going to grab this fiber and lift it up, leverage it against these fibers back here, and at some point it'll tear and leave a mess. Can't do anything about it with a router plane. But with this plane I can because I have an adjustable throat. So I can get in there, and that throat plate.
Should you use a 1/2 inch though?
No, I like the mass of this. That throat plate moves forward and back, and I can bring it right up tight to the cutter, so that the wood fiber is well supported, and it'll even allow me to plane against the grain without any tear out. Now, I want to set this up on a piece of pine or something else.
Do you do much setup for the shoulder plane, or does it come ready out of the box?
The shoulder plane comes pretty much ready out of the box. There's not a lot to do with that other than sharpening the blade. So the nice thing about this one is it's got a hollow spot underneath there for your fingers, and you squeeze it like that, and lots of control. Now what I'm doing right now is I just want to make, that's way too heavy of a cut. So I'm going to back that off. Now that I've plugged up that throat, I'll have to What are you thinking about, Nick?
The bathroom?
He's sick.
No, he's in the bathroom.
His nerves have got to him.
Paul Rigney joined us. He was a little late. He didn't hear you mention the guitar, so.
Paul? Glad you're here. We, in an upcoming episode, or whatever we call these things, workshop, we're going to auction off,
Still too heavy.
or we're going to do the same thing we've been doing. We're going to do it with the guitar. I think that's our best bet. Okay, I'm backing this off a little bit. You nervous, Nick? You're not? I would think after 13 years you would be. All right, that's
That's a
a
little
heavy
heavy.
cut for
Did you
maple.
pull it back in?
Huh?
Did you pull the
I pulled
blade
it back in a little, yeah.
So the reason I recommended using the 1/2 inch,
Was
because when you take a pass with this, it's not going to go corner to corner, and it'll be difficult to clean out that remaining 1/16 of an inch.
well, you know what I need is I need a block.
To hold you plumb.
Yeah. So what I'm doing is to avoid ending up with a ridge. By putting that block in there, it just gives me a reference point. And you can tell because I'm getting just that last little bit that I want. Still need another pass. I should have been counting. That's still a pretty heavy cut. And I'm going to close that throat down a little bit more too. I'll show you the gap. Can you get somewhere where you can see that?
Mm-hmm.
I think since Nick is here, we should give a quick shout out to his Instagram page.
Nick's?
Yeah, he makes some gorgeous pieces. I think everybody should see them. NB Wood Finery, NB Wood Finery. It's on Instagram, so give him a follow.
You've been
I'll,
holding out on us, Nick.
Yeah, he's got some great stuff on there. Really nice stuff. I'll post the link in the.
Any little ring boxes? No? No ring boxes? No, you have to come take a class. Of course, you have to buy the ring first to make sure the box fits. Her. Is that what you meant? You what? Yes, we did. Thank you, Pete. Pete sent us our Christmas present. A box of American
And Canadian.
and Canadian flags for our benches. So when the vets come in, we have, depending on what country they represent, we have a flag on their bench for them. All right, I'm going to,
Hog out one side.
yeah, I can do that.
Have you lined up the blade with that corner? Or with that edge? Like flushed it out?
No,
Should you?
should have. Should have. So what I'm going to do, the blade is wider than the body of the plane. So when you're working to one side, you want to have it flush, and that's what you do. Just push down against something solid, and that'll slide the blade over. still see a little bit of a gap down there.
You need some more donations for?
Sure.
Okay. I'll do this one. Wax just reduces the friction.
Couple more donations from Andrea in Colingo.
Where?
In Colingo. She's from Rhode Island, and Thane Curtis as well.
Thank you. So do me a favor. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, if you look, we're at 99,000 and change. And when you hit 100,000, YouTube starts to promote your channel, which helps us with our mission.
And we get a silver play button that we can put on the wall.
We do?
Yep, which is what I'm most excited about.
Frick's into that stuff. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, yeah, and hit the...
Hit the bell.
slam that bell. Don't just hit it, slam it. That notifies you whenever we release another awesome video.
Or when we go live. So
What about the like thing that I always hear people talking about?
give it a thumbs up. That also helps YouTube promote it as well.
Oh, really?
Like, subscribe, and hit the bell. I think so.
Well, what if you have premium?
That shouldn't have picked that up.
Huh? No, that one's still, this isn't very comfortable to use. I'm trying to push this down. I'm trying to do three things at once here. I'm trying to stay tight to this inside, keep it standing square. I wonder if I can do it by hand. No,
Nope.
it's way too wiggly. Where were you, Ken?
Get in his jacket. It's freezing in here.
It's like a deep freezer.
I must be the only one under the pressure of the...
It's all that hot.
Okay,
It's 16 degrees Fahrenheit
in here,
in Grand Bay right now. Just
16 degrees Fahrenheit.
-9 for Celsius Canadians.
I'm thinking.
What?
I'm thinking it would have been easier to do it with a 1/2 inch.
One on each side. It's certainly not easy to do them with this block. Although that might be.
I don't.
Okay. Now, we'll clean this face up. Now, I got to get this set properly. And just sighting down there. I'm amazed at how many people can't do this, or maybe they just don't know what they're looking at. Sighting down the sole to see the blade to get it set up so that it's parallel to the sole. It's imperative in order to keep this plane cutting so that you're taking the same amount off both sides. I'm going to retract that blade a little bit more.
You're a little heavy on the right side.
Maybe. When I go out and I teach setting up and sharpening and using a hand plane, it's just amazing how many people will be planing, and they've got these massive plane tracks, and I come over and they don't know what's causing them, and I look and you see one half of the blade sticking out and the other half buried or retracted fully. Anyway, my point is you've got to get to a point where you can see that and correct it.
We're over an hour now, just so
Are
you
we?
know. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the inside. So now what we need to do is cut this thing. So we'll cut it right here. Well, you know what? I can't rush. We'll just get done what we can get done. Okay. Huh? Yeah. I'm going to go over here and use the chop saw because that's got to be put back together. Nobody's asked any questions. None?
Just a second. I was totaling up our donations.
You what?
I was just totaling up our donations so far.
How's our numbers for viewers?
About 300. And just so you know, we have received enough donations to pay for a vet already.
That's awesome. Thank you, people. Now, here's going to be a problem.
It's gonna tear out.
It's going to tear it on that back side. But is that going to be an issue? I don't think so. This is going to be the tailboard, and we're going to remove all that material anyway, so that won't be an issue. And then on the pinboard side, that won't be an issue. Maybe not. Hopefully not.
Oh, that might be an issue.
You know, that's what I expected, but that's all going to be removed. So you see what happens when you don't come in there and cut that little chamfer on the back side first? Okay, so that's done, but that'll all be removed. Some of those got really
I think
deep.
this one you should cut a chamfer with a chisel.
Yeah, I'm going to have to. So pull the board away from the fence back here. Cut a little chamfer on this side. I got to get rid of that bad burn. Now, what Jake was referring to, I'll go in and I'll cut. I need some light. Now I can do it with this. I'm just going to cut a little chamfer. Like that. So you see what I did? There, there, and there. So that when we plane, as long as I don't go beyond them, still got some room. Got a big burn to get rid of.
You broke somewhere.
No, it's just that little nick over there from where
Oh, your chamfer broke it.
excuse me.
David Vanderreed, where do you get the headset magnifier you have on?
Repeat the question.
Where do you get
Uh,
the headset magnifier Rob has on? That's from David Vanderreed.
Woodcraft.
They don't sell it anymore. So.
Oh, they don't sell it anymore. Now I don't know.
I think it's called Opta something.
Optivision.
Optivision.
And you buy different magnifier. There it is right there. Can you hone in on that? The name?
Optivisor.
Optivisor.
Okay.
And you can get different magnifiers. Kind of a Mickey Mouse way how they hold them in, but I find it comfortable.
It's available on Amazon just for anybody's.
Can't you promote somebody else?
I know, but
Any with lights on?
Okay, now we
You
gotta
can promote them.
cut these. I think what I need to do next is go in there and cut this off. So even though this piece is going to be thin, the tailboard, it's going to go the full depth of these. So what we want to do is measure the thickness of the pin board, which is this piece.
What's underneath your board? This one.
Chips. Where's Rex?
Right behind
Oh.
me.
Right? So we'll now go in and scribe a line all the way around. I'm going to do it here because we're going to cut these off.
Shouldn't you go into the grooves?
No. It's going to be easy to do after I cut that off. Now we've got to go remove this material so that we end up with just this thickness. And then we can cut our tails in that. Actually, what I was going to do, I was going to cut the tails while it was still in full width, just to take advantage of the extra long length to line your saw up, but I can get by that. All right, let's go over and do that.
Repeat
Yeah,
the
okay,
question.
so I got to say something about poplar, because poplar's a weird wood in that normally the heartwood, which is the center part of the tree, is harder than the sapwood, which is the outside of the tree. And I've asked a botanist, and I haven't got an answer back yet. Poplar, the heartwood is green, the sapwood is white. Heartwood is soft, the sapwood is hard. You can easily cut the green wood with a 17 degree, not a problem. Cutting the white sapwood on poplar might wreck your 17 degree chisel unless you're really careful. That's poplar. How's our time, Ken?
10-12.
We're 72 minutes in.
Somebody else just registered for June workshop.
Did they? Really? So we're now down to one spot left in June? Awesome. Frick,
Yes.
while I'm doing this mundane stuff, tell them the kind of meals that you prepare for the
Ooh.
workshops. Talk about the brisket.
Well, we didn't do brisket last time, but we plan on doing it this
We
time.
did it one time before.
Yeah, we did bacon wrap steak and chicken. I do
Can you
fresh,
ham it up a little bit more than that?
succulent and juicy, fresh tenderloin steaks.
Never frozen.
Never frozen, cut.
You butchered that cow, right?
Well, it was roaming around out back, and Super Dave wrestled him to the ground. And we start the
Didn't save its life?
no.
Did I just take the right? No, I didn't.
We start with my signature burger. It's called the Big Smoky, which is a half-pound, huge burger. It is fresh as well, never frozen, slow smoked. It's juicy with smoked cheese and my world-famous maple bacon on top of that. So that's how we
No,
start.
no, you don't just say world famous maple bacon. Come on, tell them the story.
I didn't know there was a story. You want me? I'm not giving away the recipe if that's what you want me to do.
What do you use?
I use Canadian maple syrup.
Bird's eye maple
Well,
syrup.
I don't know about that. But we have good meals. Megan does a great job. She cooks most of them, and then sometimes 3 times, hopefully 4 times this next time, I use a wood pellet smoker.
Nick,
So
how much weight did you gain during that week? Took home a few more pounds than you came with. I know that.
the food is worth the price of admission alone.
And now you're exaggerating.
should come for the food, and Rob's a bonus, I guess, and the
Yeah.
vets, of course.
All right, let's come back over here. Jake, if I got a square on me, no. Now I want to, because that blade, it's a new rip blade. It's nice and sharp. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to stand this on end. I want to make sure that that fence is square to the table. I'm going to make this cut like so, And I'm banking on it being clean enough that I won't have to do anything else to it. And that is so hard to see. I don't mind cleaning a little bit off at the top. Okay, there. Now we'll set that. I'm just going to use that inside. Come on, move over. How's that for close?
Is that right on, or did you go a little too high?
It's right on. Now, I should have made that cut first. That's a mistake. I should have made this cut first, then that one, and the little pieces would have fallen to the outside. Because if I try to cut it now, you end up having those little bullets in there and they go shooting out the back. So now all I gotta do is come over here and use my bench crosscut. There's an example of where I would use the bench crosscut instead of the joinery crosscut. Because this is not an essential cut. I'll just come in here, and all I want to do is just get rid of those pieces so I can go back over to the table saw and finish that, but I won't have these pieces trapped between the blade, and the fence.
Did you tell them I had laser eye surgery since the last time we had an episode?
Yes, Frick can now see.
NBC.
And that marking gauge works as a, well, it scores. Shoot, I should have gone in there and done another cut. Dang it. I gotta go set that up again. A little bit more. I didn't look at that. I don't have a nice smooth surface along there, and I can take it from this saw without having to go in there with a router plane and clean it up. Router plane works great, except on something like bird's eye, like as I mentioned, where it's just going to rip and tear.
Some donations.
Should have checked that, and I didn't. Okay, so that's a nice single surface. Raise that up a little bit.
Clean it up with a chisel.
All right.
Got some more donations.
More donations?
I'm not sure if I mentioned Thane Curtis and Kenneth Stewart before. We have Brian Tyler, Mike Tokarchuk, Don O'Connell, David Clark, Graham Sutton, Israel Castellanos, Prentice Hill, Brian Tyler, and Eric Hess.
Eric? I know Eric. Thank you, gentlemen. Now I'm just going in here and cleaning out those corners. I'll get a little closer with that when we actually get there. Okay, now let's lay this out and get this thing moving. So we got to make sure that our, actually I'm going to do this a little bit different than I normally would. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to mark, I'm going to transfer, well, let me get a pencil and then I'll show you. Jake, you're going to want to come on this side. Let me get this out of the way. Get out my dovetail saw. Put this back. This is called a bench hook, by the way. So here, my pins are going to be in here. So I got to make sure that the base of my pins stay inside of these marks. Okay. As I said, that's not how I normally would lay it out, but it's the way I got to lay this one out. Red pen, easier to see.
Just wait a second. Our battery's going to die in the camera, so we're just going to switch it. Anybody want to sing a song?
No time for that.
Okay,
Wait.
we back on.
The stream is still on, like
Rex.
the audio is still there. Yeah, okay,
I
we're
think a
good.
bottle of Perrier out there. Would you grab it for me, please? Okay, good.
Yep, we're good.
All right, so here, come over here, Jake, around behind me. So I'm going to just, I'm going to make sure that the pin is going to be complete. So I have to stay on the right side of this mark. And I'm just looking up here at about the size that I want. So I'm going to go right about there. So I'll mark across the end. Where's that line? And come up the face. Okay. Now, to make sure that's the same on the other side, I'll use my dividers here. This will look more familiar. Come over here. Use my 1 and 6. Okay, now.
You're almost better with that black pen on maple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
It's just
see.
it's a wide. I don't like it. It's too fat. Now these I'm going to I'm just going to guess at this and then see if it works. We want 3 tails. 1, 2. That's not wide enough. Open it up. 1, 2. That's too wide for the top. The amount that I go beyond this half pin will determine how big these inside ones are. That's right on. That size? Yeah, that size. Okay, so we leave a mark, and then when we come back, leave a mark, As long as I am good at the bottom, we'll be fine. I gotta get
It's not
some light.
looking like you will.
I think so. There it is. So 1 and 6. Yep, we're good. And then if we do it on one side, we know it's going to work on the other.
Do you want to hold that board on top of it? Just to further
Okay, so
accent the
this piece is going to be cut out of here. So I just had to make sure that the outside edges of that were within, that one's close, I don't know why, but
well,
they're okay. Okay, so now we cut them. Cuts across the end have to be perpendicular. stay to the outside. Pardon me, I should make sure I always do this. Mark your waist so that you're sure to stay in the waist side. In other words, keep the line.
Wait.
What?
What happens if you go below on this side?
Well, I don't want to. Did I?
You just started to score it. Good.
Reposition my lamp. Did Pete send his dovetails up? Is that what he meant?
No. You meant the flags. You're slanted a little too far forward. Keep going. Good.
Okay. Now we'll clean off the burr on the inside. Okay, now I got to make sure that these are
Here,
taken
that's
down.
set.
Okay.
Are you finishing that?
Hmm?
Okay.
Now this has to be perfectly clean. And a little bit of variance in this is because when I was using the shoulder plane to cut these, I was a little deeper on some sides than the other, but that's not going to matter. But this has to be nice and clean so that when we go to this next step, it does it accurately. So, pin board in the vise. Oh, wait a minute now. Got to set our marking gauge. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to just measure this thickness. A little bit of a variation from the way we normally do it. So I'll set my marking gauge out here on the edge. Drop that down, lock it. So now that is this thickness. And we'll go in there and scribe just the two faces. And in this case, we're just going to scribe. Wait a minute, am I going to cut down through there? Don't worry. It's going to be a little bit awkward getting the chisel down in there.
Bill Bailey says hi. Class of April 2017.
Hi, Bill. Doc Bailey. Bill was a medic, right? Vietnam.
He was a
Well,
Navy corpsman
Navy corpsman
attached
to
the Marines.
Marines. So he took care of guys coming right off of the field, literally moments after their injury. Okay, so now we use, why is that not sitting?
It's sitting too low.
Hmm?
No, that board's sitting too
Did
low.
this move?
Yeah.
It did. Hungry, Ken? Or just cold?
Just cold. What made you think I was hungry?
Because I'm starving.
Oh, turn my belly on.
Every time I go to cook breakfast out there, you're always hungry.
Because it smells so good.
Come on, get up there.
Pete Ambrose just made a donation.
Pete did?
Yeah. He was in the
Barrett Fisher, Christopher Stillwell, Brian Tyler,
Thank
Austin
you, Pete.
Burleson.
There.
I'm going to check something. I just want to make sure that this is square. It better be. Yeah, it is. Who was it? Barrett. Barrett is a combat wounded vet that came to one of our recent classes, and Barrett is from Maine, so he's just down the street.
Christopher Stillwell, Brian Tyler, Austin Bertelson, John
Okay, I
Zierden,
can't figure out why
and
this
Brian
thing is
Tyler.
not.
Staying up.
No, wait a minute. There's something going on here. This is not flat across the end. What is that all about? Look at that.
You didn't get rid of the burn either.
Huh? Well, when I shot that, I didn't go all the way.
Oh, you know
My
why?
bad. Why?
Because you stopped at the end of the chamfers on those.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Ah, shoot. I stopped where?
At the end, after like, you stopped because you ran out of chamfer on those.
Another donation from Paul Pearson and Charlie Ray.
Another one from Charlie?
Well, it finally came through. He asked Megan earlier to put
Oh,
us on the list, but it came through. Very generous, Charlie. Thank you. And also Paul. Thank you, everybody.
Charlie wants that saw really bad. But that's not the case, because I know Charlie. Not that he wouldn't want the saw, but I know where his heart is.
Wait, you're breaking. Oh,
There.
did you
It's
see
all
that
right. It's
fire?
all right. It's all right. It's all right. I'm all right. But I got to go back in and rescribe this. Hey, Sean. Now, Sean and Angela are a wonderful love story that you two would benefit from greatly.
How about if Nick's Instagram page reaches 400 followers, he will propose here live on this episode.
What?
If Nick's Instagram page gets 400 followers,
Deal, Nick?
He's at like 300 and something.
it's gone up
Okay,
by
this
15.
is changed now where it's get Nick married. Everybody go on Nick's Instagram and hit the whatever you do on Instagram.
Follow.
And then we'll get the announcement. Poor girl. How patient do you think she should be? Yeah, don't push it, brother. If I'd have known, Erica, if you'd have told me that I had him here for a week, he would have.
To put it into context, I dated Rob's daughter for 6 months before we got married. So it's like kind of the opposite. Yeah. Started dating in December, married in August. So I guess it's a little more than January to August. A little more than 6
I'm mum on that one.
months. Yeah. Tried to stop it. Now he realizes it's the best decision he ever made. Here I sit.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Frick. Okay, so we finally got this thing where we want it. Now we got to go in and we got to measure our saw kerf. Remember, when you make sure when you do this that number one, it's laying flat. You don't want it raised up on anything. Don't let the gauge rest on the, in this case, the plane. It's all on the saw. I want to hear that hit. Lock it. And then that represents the thickness of the blade. How far into this are we?
93 minutes, so a little over an hour and a half.
All right, we're still good. How are our numbers? Nobody fading?
340.
Okay, hold that firmly. Now we're going to reach down and then drag that through.
Repeat the process
Yep,
just
yep.
so it's clear.
Why, is anybody asking questions?
No, but
If you're unsure what I'm doing, please ask.
just explain what you're doing.
Well, I'm going to, if they all know, then...
Well, I know, but just explain the offset. to
Well,
the
I
left.
offset the board to my left, so I'm going to the right side of each tail. and I'm dragging this saw blade that we sell, don't forget that, is the exact same as the saw blade on my dovetail saw. So by not cutting out the waste first, when I put that saw blade down in there, there's no way that it can wander to the right or to the left. So the mark that it's going to leave in the end grain of the pin board, this piece, is going to be exactly where I want it because I moved this over one saw kerf so that when we cut this piece, if I didn't move it over, watch this. If I didn't move it over and I did that, that saw kerf would actually be in the piece that needs to fill this space because if you look at it, this piece has to fill from here right to this side of the tail. This is the tail, T. Okay? In other words, it's got to fill in this space plus the kerf. So if I didn't move it over and I marked down through the kerf, it would end up being too small by one saw kerf. So what we do is we move it over one saw kerf. So now this is all we need from here to here. The saw kerf is now in the waist, which would be represented by the tail in this piece. Okay, so there's all my marks. I'm going to go through and make this one a little bit deeper. Am I going to saw these?
No.
And it doesn't matter, you can do this multiple times so you can get yourself a really good saw kerf. Now that's a pretty shallow one. Ah, what the heck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just reach around and I'm going to use that saw kerf to guide my saw so I can start the cut down the face. What this does is prevent me from having to make a plumb cut because it does it for me. Now, if you don't understand that part, let me explain this. This is why it's critical that the cut across the end of the tailboard, this piece, be perfectly perpendicular. Because a perpendicular cut across the end of the tailboard, when I'm doing this, translates into a plumb cut down the face. How am I in that line, Jake? I normally put a piece of masking tape so I can see that bottom line a little bit better when I do this.
Which scribe line is which?
Farthest one down. And you literally just have to let gravity take over and do that. No force at all on the saw. Very, very light. Okay, now we got to do the other side. So to do the other side, we've got to move this board to my right. So sometimes it's easier to just balance. I've got a big, large diameter cutter. I'm going to set that on there like that and just, so I'm balancing on the bottom. And then I'll just move this over until it touches. Ah, bumped it. Wait a minute now, there's something going on here.
That's probably.
Oh, is that what it was? Balance that.
No, there's something in the way.
Mark, Nemo, I can't remember his last name. Question regarding waxing your plane. Why doesn't it affect the finish when staining?
Repeat it.
Repeat that question, Frick, so that
The
Everyone
question
can
is
hear?
regarding waxing your plane. Why doesn't it affect the finish when staining?
I don't stain wood, but it would, if it was going to be a problem, it would also affect the top coat, whether it's oil or lacquer. And the reason why it doesn't is because I don't wax my plane prior to the last pass. So any wax residue would have already come off with each pass of the plane. And maybe I've been lucky, but I've never had an issue. And I don't put a ton on there either, if you notice. It's just a little squiggly mark, just enough to reduce the friction. So I'm pushing the blade through the wood instead of pushing the plane over the wood. So here I'm doing this again. Very, very light touch. You got to let gravity pull that into the kerf. If you try to force it, you'll mess up your nice, neat kerf. And then just, you're watching two lines at the same time. You don't want to go below this one down here, nor do you want to go below this one up here. Okay. Now we can come in here. Now I'm going to raise this one up for the simple reason that I want to be able to put the saw. Let me explain. It's easier to show than it is to talk about it. This is standing plumb. I want to be able to drop the saw down into that kerf so that the kerf guides the cut as much as possible. And then just saw it down to your line. So holding it on an angle like that. And this is where you want a saw with a really narrow kerf. That's what makes this so effective. My saw only has 2 thou set per side. And I don't think there's any saw out there that's that narrow set. Most are 3+. The advantage of that is that with a very, very narrow set, the kerf really holds the blade and forces it to track. And track simply means make it stay perfectly straight. Straight is shortest distance between 2 points. Nothing to do with angle. You have to learn to aim it yourself. But with a saw that will track perfectly, that's how you end up with 2 flat surfaces that create such a great joint. Last cut. You really have to have a light touch on this. You can't overpower that kerf's ability to hold onto that saw. All right, let's whip out that waste. Now, so I can see that line a little bit better, I'm just going to use a piece of painter's tape. What are you guys trying to do?
Just need a charger for Nick's iPad there.
How many followers is Nick up to?
He is up to 377.
Really? How many has he started with?
I went up by about 20.
How many?
Went up by about 20.
Come on, you guys.
We don't,
Marry him off.
we don't have too many Instagram.
Why should he get away easy?
Not too many Instagrammers tonight.
Huh?
There's not too many Instagrammers tonight.
I love a December wedding.
And if they need a DJ,
I'm using this little fret saw. It's got a 12.5 teeth per inch skip tooth blade. That means where there would normally be 3 teeth, on this blade there's 2. That increases the size of the gullet. The gullet is the space between the teeth. That means it'll cut faster because there's more room for the sawdust. As the gullet fills up when the saw is in the wood, when it fills up, it no longer cuts. Should have changed my ringtone to wedding bells instead of. Now, we'll cut this one out. I didn't get LASIK surgery, so I have to use tape. So, Frick, would you recommend it?
yeah, I would. Yeah, for sure. I'm still in the recovery phase. It's only been 2 weeks, but Luthier had it done, and he said it was the best medical decision he's ever made. So
I thought the change was.
no, I can see 2015 right now, according to my last test.
You're a couple years behind, aren't you?
Okay. Now I'm going to do that a little bit deeper. Is Soup still on, or is he?
Oh yeah, just chirping.
He's chirping.
Him and Paul.
How much of it is not directed at me?
Well, someone actually suggested that you be a part of the next episode,
And Dave said,
and Dave just laughed and said, "Have you seen his dovetails?" And that shut that suggestion down pretty quick.
same could be asked about Dave. They're still unseen.
Now, let me tell you what I just did in case you missed it. I got involved in the all the conversations going on. Super Dave,
the politics
weddings,
behind the
December weddings,
Chiseling.
Paul. When's Paul leave?
January, I think.
January. So, in order to get a really nice shoulder, nice and tight, I went in there first and just deepened that. But then in the waist, this is the waist, X, waist, take a chisel and cut a little trough up against that scribe line. Now, when I set my saw in there, it fits right up against that shoulder, giving you a perfect reference spot. Now, the only thing I have to worry about is making a plumb cut. Plumb meaning up and down.
Paul Pearson asked if you can quickly explain the offset with the gauge again.
The offset with the gauge again?
Yeah.
That
Hit rewind?
wait a second.
What?
I think you gotta clean out that. Is
What?
that shoulder clean? There's stuff below that gauge line.
Oh, yeah. Hawkeye here just spotted the material of it.
Who needs
Y-
surgery
yeah,
on these eyes?
Shoot, I'm trying to think of how
Well-
to do that. I let me get a little bit farther into this, Paul, and I will. And I have these two pieces as a means of being able to use them as a
Demonstration.
visual aid. Just need to get a little farther down the road. All right, now I need a backup block. Oh, where's my piece of plywood that I normally have sitting here? Huh?
I don't know, but here.
You got something over there? That'll work. Okay, that's right there. Now I feel a little bit of a burr on the back side of that chisel, so let's do a quick sharpening. I've got a 1,000 grit and a 16,000. Oh my goodness, whatever did happen to that? Actually, I think
You
that came
ground
right
it.
off the grinder, yeah. Find your primary, come up a little bit higher. These little narrow chisels, it's easier to just take little short forward and back strokes till you get a burr in the back side. Come over to the 16,000, come up just a little bit higher than I did on that previous stone. And then flip it over and keep it nice and flat, a couple of seconds to remove the burr. So let me just take a quick break on this. So anybody who's donated $25 or increments of 25 to our Purple Heart project, at the end of the night we're going to do a draw for this beautiful piece of resin impregnated figured maple. And you get the rest of it as well. You get to choose whether you want a dovetail saw, a joinery crosscut, a medium tenon, a bench crosscut, your choice, and we'll do it up and send it to you. And that chisel that I just fixed is too wide for there. How's that? I needed to grab a quarter. Now, normally, I'd say if you've got a lot of extra material, take a little bit off first before you set it on the line, but because I have all of this to hold it, I don't need to worry about that. The chisel's not going to get shoved back because it's got lots of support behind it. That's the whole idea behind removing some of the waste first. That will be applicable on this side. So now, instead of risking having all of that waste right here, all of this waste pushing on the bevel of the chisel, trying to slide it back this way, I go in and I make a little chop like that first. Then when I set the chisel, I'm right in the scribe line, very little material behind me. That sounds hollow, which means there's a piece of something. Danny not on tonight?
I haven't seen Danny. Jim.
Anybody that lives anywhere around the,
Nashville.
not Nashville,
Yeah, but he's not far from Nashville.
Nashville area, Luthier and I, the colonel, are going to be
In Clarksville.
in Clarksville, January 20-something. We're going in to help Danny Bell kick off his new business. Danny's a combat wounded vet. He was in our class, and he's opened up a business supplying wood, catering a lot to the military community in Clarksville. We're going to go down and do some demonstrations. There is a fee, and the fee is you have to, if you're not a combat wounded vet, you have to bring one with you. That's how you get into it. We're going to have a blast.
Jim O'Shaughnessy just made a donation.
Thank you, Jim.
He just joined us.
You're a little late. Jim's a good friend of ours. Jim was in our class. Jim's happily married. Just throwing that out there.
We only need 9 more.
9
follow-
more, and he's
nine-
got really.
9 more.
Oh, he's
followers.
nervous. He's gonna go and start canceling them. No, he's not. He's in love. You are in love? Good. Prove it. How many?
13 years.
You have to share your last name. That's if she still wants it. All right, now I got to get rid of all this. This is just a little bit awkward because I wasn't able to get my gauge line down there. So I think what I'll do is come in here. I got to get this light just right. Excuse me, Jake. How's our time, Ken?
Got about 5 minutes. No pressure.
Well, I wouldn't mind doing another one of these, finishing it. What do you're busy next weekend, Frick?
Yeah, I DJ next weekend, but we can do it the weekend after that, which is
Not-
the 21st.
what's the date?
21st. Cutting it close.
It's all right. It's the thought that counts.
Some guy by the name of Rex Cosman made a donation.
That's actually from Rex's boss.
Oh, really?
You said Steve?
Cool.
William Phyllis.
Thank you. Does it go by William or Will or Bill or what?
Billy Phyllis.
Billy? Thanks, Bill.
Plus he has to put up with Rex, so I think we should be...
Double
go-
thanks,
we
Bill.
should donate the money back.
Yeah. Then some.
Come on, where's my line?
It's right there.
Shoot. Fortunately, it's on the inside. So amazing when you can actually see. Okay, now we'll come in on this one. And then we'll just connect the dots.
Wait, that one slid off.
Yeah, I know. It's a little bit awkward to do.
Should you be sloping that at all?
No. Hard enough to keep it on track the way it is. Now, I'll use this to go over there and go between the two.
Ooh.
Part of the problem is that it's already sloping on me, because when you're chopping down through this, the chisel naturally
Lift
wants
the
to
board up.
undercut like this. So I'm it's not as clean a line as I would like, but now get this face done. And this needs to happen in several stages.
You know what?
What?
You need to go back to the other side,
Why?
because that's gonna do that.
Well, what Jake's meaning is there's a risk that that's going to break out.
It is. There's no support underneath it.
So, now that I've got it partially cut there, so if we kept chopping, in the process of coming down here, there's a good chance that we might break something out there. So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to cut down deeper from this side. I think I'm actually going to put this in the vise. I'm going to use a narrower chisel because it doesn't apply as much pressure over a big area. And I'll just come in here, and might even be best to do it on a bit of an angle.
I read some donations.
Yeah.
All right, we got Donald Trust, Earl Hughes, Luke
Donald who?
Trust. You thought I said Trump?
Yeah.
Earl Hughes, Luke Walker, Roderick Smith, Peter Hughes, Brian Yablonsky, Scott McKee, Bill Mellon, Matthew Fecteau, Sue made another donation, David Baker, Morgan Pinto, Bill Mellon, Jared Mize, Jim O'Shaughnessy, Jordan Reel, Bill Phyllis, Brandon Lawrence, Devin Wright, and David Savage.
Thank you.
You mentioned Devin. Did you say Devin right?
Devin Wright?
Yeah.
Hey, Devin. So Devin is a combat vet from our first class.
No.
Second?
Yeah, he was in the class with Bill.
Second. And Devin supplies, and he does a very good job too, makes the dovetail markers for each of the vet in our classes. So big thank you to Devin. Was Devin in Sean's class?
I don't think so. No, Sean was later.
No, Sean was.
Sean was later.
What? This is tedious.
Make sure you're going to the bottom scribe line.
Did I really undercut that bad out there? Tell me when we need to
Oh
stop.
no.
What?
No, never mind.
Are you thinking I didn't?
We're at the 2-hour mark now.
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay, why is that scribe line lower than? Oh, wait a minute now. Why is that scribe line lower? All right, that's all right. We'll pick this up. All right, we'll finish this before Christmas. Not much before, but before Christmas. So in wrapping this up, we've got to do our draw. Any questions? Let me go back and address this one real quick. So this one on
Paul Pearson.
who was it?
Paul Pearson.
Paul. So Paul, look closely at this. This has to fill that space, right? And that has to fill that space and that space. If I had laid these beside each other, if I'd set it just like that, and then sawed down through there, do you see how that would be taking off part of the pin? So what I have to do is I have to move this over one saw kerf. So now, can you see the gap? Now the saw kerf is in the waist, and it preserves all of this half pin to fill that area. So if you left it flush and then marked down through the kerf, you'd be taking out part of this. And on these, you'd be taking out material on both sides, which would really throw it off, and that would end up being too thin by 2 saw kerfs. That's the reason we do it. When we pick this up in a couple of weeks, we will finish from there. We'll get our boards done. I didn't think I'd get it done in 2 hours, but any other questions?
We had one question at the beginning. They were wondering what you keep in your first aid station, or if there's anything you recommend that should be in there. I'm pretty sure I got you that one from Costco.
Yeah, you did.
From Costco, yeah. So it's a standard.
Well,
pretty
it doesn't have enough Band-Aids. So Ken, you brought in that big bag.
No, Luthier sent them.
Oh, Luthier did?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Tweezers. What do we need in here? We need Band-Aids for minor cuts. We need ointment. Whatever that antibiotic, whatever ointment. We need tweezers, good tweezers. We get lots of splinters. We need an eye wash. We've got an eye wash station that's being put in out in the other room. That's about it. We need the draw.
What's
Nick, was there anything that you wanted to say in closing? No, you're good. Erica,
He made it to 394.
394. Give him. Go on, come on. 6 more, please. Subscribe twice. Get a different name.
Go create an account.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get all my kids are going there. We'll have 10.
So
Do you know how to do the draw?
Well, get the cat.
Are you going to give them a last minute or two?
Well, there's a delay, so you want? I can give the grand total.
Yeah, let's get some. This is your last chance to register for the saw.
Show the saw one more time.
Get it, Jake. Make sure you get that flashy figure. Does it work better in the light? Whew, that is hot. Sean, this is a beautiful piece. You see that figure? And it never goes away. That's the nice thing about the light-colored ones. That'll always be there. Better with age. And you can have it made in a dovetail format, joinery crosscut, bench crosscut, or medium tenon. Ding my bell. Don't
Just,
forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Like the video,
They're gonna keep.
Like the videos.
subscribe, and hit the bell.
Hit the bell. Oh yeah, and Megan takes care of our Instagram channel,
And we're 200 shy of 10,000.
and we're 200 shy of 10,000. 10,000 is a big milestone because then you can start making money off of it.
No, you can swipe up.
Oh, swipe
You
up,
can
whatever.
do the ads where you
Do
swipe.
the ads, yeah.
Yeah.
All of that works to keep our business alive and well, and as our business grows, so does our ability to help the vets. And I don't want to tie the two together, but they are tied together. My main focus is supposed to be running the business. I find myself focusing more on the Purple Heart project. But you know what you're doing?
Yeah, don't press it yet. Wait till the camera's on it. All right, so let me do one more refresh.
You were going to give us totals.
Yeah, I will.
How many people do we have on?
We have
How many? 453 was our peak. That is right
453
now.
right
We're
now.
all tuning in for the big.
Did anybody
Reveal.
comment anything about marriage or the bliss? Or
Oh
anything
yeah,
like
yeah.
that?
A lot of people were sharing. A lot of people were sharing how many years they were married or engaged.
Really?
Yeah, last week.
So you felt pressure, Nick? I certainly hope so.
I'll just read the last few donations. Brandon Lawrence, Devin Wright, David Savage, Sean Allen, Paul Pearson, Gabriel Cochran, Glenn Holman. Looks like I heard the bell or the cha-ching, so we'll check one more.
What's our total?
That's 28.
Remember, it's approximately $3,000 to take care of one vet. We have 36 to do each year, and
Did we just get another one in?
it would be
Yeah.
great if we could take care of 12 from doing this. I'd feel really good about that.
All right. So our grand total. One more refresh just to make sure.
Yeah, these three.
Gabriel and Glenn.
All right. You ready?
Not yet.
Should I sit down?
Not for the draw. For the total.
Oh, okay. Give me the total.
Our grand total this evening is $6,028.42.
Awesome, boys. That's two.
2 vets.
2 vets. Awesome, awesome. With $200 to boot. That'll pay gas to take the van down to Bangor and back to come up.
$28. That'll
Oh,
take
20
the van out of St. John.
Yeah, I was thinking 280.
No, 6,000.
Awesome, gentlemen. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And women and ladies, sorry. I cannot forget Sue down in Florida. She's such a regular. And all
All
the
right.
others.
Let's do it.
You got one more name to add in.
At this rate, we'll never get out of here, Ken. I should just go back to work. We should put all nighter sometime
That's okay.
when we get the heater fixed. Remember, we're going to come back and finish this on the 23rd,
21st.
21st. Tell your friends.
As long as Frick doesn't have another kidney stone.
You a lovely couple. You going to come
Thanks.
back?
Thanks for mentioning that.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
Ready?
I want to see
This
this.
is the big.
Remember, you have to scroll down after you click it.
Oh, I should mention before you push the button that the last time we did this, we gave away the chisels and the plane. Did we send him his box?
We did send him. the
Good.
box.
And both of the guys that drew the name emailed us later and said they would rather just donate it to a vet, which I thought was incredible.
Yeah.
But you know what, guys? Let us send you this. We appreciate your generosity, but let us do this for you, for doing what you're doing for them.
Okay, ready?
So
Here we go. Drum
enjoy.
roll.
Keep your saw. Is this just the teaser?
The winner is. Scroll down.
I think it said Ahmed, didn't it?
No, that's just as it.
It's just the teaser.
Ankush Kara?
Hey, where's he from? Are you pronouncing it properly? Ankush? Ankush?
Let me I can look it up here. You know what, Ken? That was from last time.
That's what I thought.
Somehow the names.
Somehow the names.
Oh well, this isn't good.
What are we doing?
So we're gonna have to draw it again. He was from the last episode.
Yeah.
Somehow the names stayed on there.
So do we have the
Yeah, these are all old names.
All of them?
I don't see it. All the ones I had were in there until the last three I put in.
So click it again. I can tell you if it's from tonight.
How do you know? It tells
Well,
you.
I do a search, and then it'll tell me when it's from. But Ankush was 2 weeks ago.
Ahmed came up this time. Well, he was in tonight's. But
Ahmed did? So who?
Mm.
So
So should we enter the names again? Can we take 5 minutes and redo it?
Yeah. Not that
Okay.
we don't want Ahmed to win.
so explain what happened. I don't put you
So
on the spot.
we're using this same website as last time, and somehow Ken was typing in all the names, but then the names from last episode also got entered into there.
So how are we separating them?
well, they weren't there when I was typing them in. The old ones weren't there. So somehow the old ones get in and the new ones are gone. That's why I'm thinking there's a.
Do we know where we started? We can just delete from.
This is why I like wood.
They're not even there.
Hey, Frick, can we end it?
I'd have written everybody's name down on a piece of paper, put them in a big machine, spun it around, and reached and pull it. But
We
And
can, I can redo it. It'd take a while.
yeah.
And then we can
Let's
announce
close
it.
out,
Yeah.
and we can release it. We can just do a quick 10-second video.
Yeah.
Announcing the winner.
well, that's suspenseful.
All right.
We should do it. I mean, we should do it live, but
Well, we should, but
I'll put the names in live.
No, well, I mean, we should draw live.
Yeah, draw one.
We can do that as a separate video. It's
Okay.
no problem.
All right.
I'll do it now, and we'll take care of it. We'll be
All right.
back. Look for the video in about 15 minutes.
This is so
Thank you,
embarrassing.
folks. We appreciate it. Have a Merry Christmas. Well, actually, I'll wish you Merry Christmas when we see you in 2 weeks. But thanks for being here. Thanks for your generosity. It's awesome. It's incredible. I tell this to everybody I talk to, how incredible you people are. Woodworkers
I'll
are
do
the
it.
finest
I went
bunch.
back in.
If you didn't get a T-shirt, make sure you do. Promote it. Promote what we do. That is the Purple Heart Project. Find us these combat wounded vets that need our help. And we're increasing it to take as many as we possibly can. Where our selection process for the May, June, and July classes is going to be on the 26th of December. So you have until then to get these guys to submit their application and get it in. Just one quick word. The most important part of that application is when they tell us their story. We're not being nosy, but we are operating like triage people in a hospital. We're trying to deal with the people who are most injured. So I tell them, I said, write that like you're talking to your therapist. You're not going to hold back and you're not going to exaggerate. That's really where most of our decision making comes from. To all my friends out there,
Did you tell everybody that
Thank
your
you.
products are on sale right now on your website?
yeah. If you're not on our newsletter, get signed up on our newsletter. It's just go to the website and click on the thing for the newsletter. It's a 10% off on anything you purchase with the exception of custom saws and classes. And that's good until tomorrow night at midnight. Okay? Sorry for the little technological screw up, but we'll get it fixed. See you.
The names are all mixed in there.
Yeah, I'll do it.
I went back and checked every one of the new
Frick, are we
ones that
done?
were there. I double checked them against the orders before the last